all this killing?
Yeah. So it was dubbed the Grapevine Murders,
Right.
obviously. And
If these people wouldn't have been chasing them, do you think they would have still killed all these, do you think Clyde would have really been a killer if the government didn't send all these people after him? You think? Because here's the thing. He robbed how many countless banks?
a lot.
Okay. And we're not talking about all the people he killed in the bank, because he didn't kill anybody in the bank.
Yeah.
So I would have just left them alone, because it seemed like whatever you sent, he was sending them back in a body bag.
I think Clyde was more of a shoot first, talk questions
Yeah.
kind of guy, but that didn't stop Bonnie from joining in
No.
on any of the killing either.
No, because she's on record for killing people.
She's a badass.
Yeah.
So some of the witnesses during these Grapevine killing spree claimed that Bonnie Parker got out of the car and went up to this guy Murphy and put another bullet, the fatal bullet, in the guy's head, and laughed as his head bounced off the ground. That was the account of one of the eyewitnesses that seen this. And so for the very, very first time, the public, the United States public, started to perceive Bonnie as a cold-blooded killer.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is, that's not what happened, folks. Yeah, so if you want to get on the show, if you've got something important to say, and if we feel like it's something that we can share with our viewers, right? That's important, and we don't want to have any crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So
don't admit to nothing.
So we've done many shows here, and we've hit on a lot of different subjects. We've had John Harrison, who did the show on.
That was a crazy show.
Supermarket for Crime.
Right.
Where he talked about all the crimes he did with his boss, who was a warlock, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And he was a I don't know, I guess.
A wild man.
He was a wild man, and I guess warlocks, I guess, according to one of the warlocks we had on our show, we did a show about warlocks, and according to the guy we had on, they don't have proposed members, which I never knew until he told us that. I don't recall what he said they call them, but anyway, I guess if you want to know, you can look at that show. It's in our archives. You can go back and check that out.
Read chapter 6 and chapter 8. You got to read that. Those two chapters you got to read 2 or 3 times. They're just a lot of fun to read.
Willie likes those chapters.
Oh, they're actually chapter 6 is my favorite. The Red Zone.
The Red Zone. Okay.
Yeah, and then chapter 8 is about the wise guys. So it's just funny to me that when I'm reading it, especially, and I'm not going to give it all away, but there's a part in your book where you talk about possibly meeting this guy, and you're late. You actually are late. And so, like, in my mind, I'm reading this going, okay, so he knows that this guy is this, but he's okay with being late to the meeting, and then...
The guy was a mob boss.
Well, I didn't want to give all that.
And he called me to a meeting.
And you decided to be hours late.
And I was literally hours late.
Then a little bit further, aren't you late several more times and he finally has enough?
Yeah, we're not going to go into all that.
Well, we're not,
right now,
but...
You just got to...
So, Larry, you spent 5 years in the same correctional centre that Epstein died in. Is that correct?
MCC New York,
Yeah.
Manhattan Correctional Center, correct. 5 years.
There is so many theories out there of what happened to Epstein. Is he still alive? Did he kill himself? Did someone else kill him? And if someone else did kill him, who was it? What I want to get to know is what is actually the format of that particular cell that Epstein would have been in.
So it's not a cell with bars, for starters. It's a door, and the door has a glass slat in it that's about this wide and this long. So the prison guards or the cops would come by and look through that window into the cell to see the inmate in there, either asleep or sitting on his bunk. So there's no way that I can tell from being there and living in those cells that you could kill yourself in there. You might be able to slit your wrists. You might be able to swallow a bunch of pills, but there's no goddamn way in hell you're gonna hang yourself in that cell. Right?
Collateral.
And then, how ironic that the traffic controller, he committed suicide too, a few days later. So you decide, folks, good or evil.
And we're going to go into depth on each one of these, right?
Absolutely. This is a
So-
full-scale investigation.
Yeah.
And listen, Bill or Hillary, if you're getting mad about any of this, talk to Willie Fats.
No, talk to our producer.
Okay, so listen, now we've got go back to the story I want to tell. So
go ahead.
The story I want to tell is Gyp DeCarlo,
Right.
who was portrayed in Jersey Boys in the musical and in the movie, was a boss of the New Jersey mob.
Right. He was my associate.
He was your associate.
Yeah.
And my good friend Red and your friend Red
Right.
came to me one day and he said, "Listen, there's this guy, the Greek. They call him the Greek. He
Right.
knows a little bit about stocks, and he's a gambler, and he's a this and he's a that. But he owed Gyp DeCarlo a lot of money, and he claims that." This is the part that I want to be really careful about how I say this, because I think it's cool as shit.
All right.
George the Greek came to us and claimed that the night that Gyp DeCarlo died, George was at his house and paid him in full in cash.
All right.
And the only two witnesses, one was dead and the other is alive. Gyp DeCarlo died and George is living.
Exactly.
So my friend Red tells me, we're not sure that George really paid him. Can you hook up with this guy and see what you can find out for us?
Right.
So that's my favorite. That's my favorite story about you, because you pulled it off, and I know you pulled it off.
Actually, it was 90,000.
90,000, and that was a lot of money back
I
then.
gave with Porky. You know Porky?
Yeah.
I gave with him. I owe him the money. So he went to Gyp, and he said I owe him. And then the Gyp died, and Porky died.
It's not
So-
funny. It's not funny that he died, but it's funny that you. The reason I love the story is, who's going to say you didn't give him the money?
Right. There was no witness.
There was no witnesses, and so because you gambled a lot with these guys, they couldn't just come out and say, "Oh, you didn't pay him. Fuck you."
Right.
Right?
I know.
You never, all the years I've known you, and I think it's safe to ask you now, because you never really gave a fuck about anybody. But all the years I've known you, I never ever asked you. So now, for the first time after all these years, I'm going to ask you directly: did you ever pay Gyp DeCarlo?
You'll never know. You'll never know. If you stop in the cameras, you'll probably.
One day I will have guns, and when I do, you'll be proud of me.
And then we'll make him an American gangster too, folks.
This is true.
It's true, right?
Yeah. I'm
So-
going to be one.
You will be one.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, because when you pass away and then your sons, they're going to be saying, let's read about Mr. They're going to read about me. Then their sons are going to read about me. 100 years from now, I want to be read about.
Why did you have to throw in when I pass away, though?
Well, because you're the next generation to pass away, then it's my generation, then it's the...
You might pass away way before me, buddy. You keep that shit up. Let me tell you right now. That's gonna stop.
Well, I mean, I'm what, 40, so I got
Yeah,
about...
but you look like you're 70.
I got another 20 years left
Yeah,
in my life.
all right. So, as the story goes, if you read Connected by Larry Cremato, there's a fellow in that book who was my partner. His name was George the Greek Liberatus. And we've had George on this show.
Absolutely, another good show.
So I tried to coax the truth out of George on our last show that we did with him, but he wouldn't admit to it. But so here's what happened. George was gambling one night. George was a big gambler.
Yep.
So George had this guy that he would gamble with. The guy's name, a wise guy, an associate, was Porky, and Porky was under Jip. So George lost 90 grand to Porky.
Oh, wow.
So Porky went to Jip and said, "Hey, this guy the Greek owes us $90 freaking $1,000." So they put the arm on George and told George, come up with the money. And so, George, at the time, George was a degenerate gambler. I mean, he could lose, $100,000
And not lose sleep
fast
over
as he
it.
made it, he could lose it. Yeah, he wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Oh, yeah.
So, this is what happened. George claimed that he went to Jip DeCarlo's house right before he died and gave Jip the money, paid Jip the $90,000. So, I think I've said this before. There's only two people in this world
That know
that
the truth.
know the truth. One is dead and one is alive. So, George is the one that's alive and Jip DeCarlo passed away. So the only one that could actually say
Yes
George,
or no
yes or
would
no
be George.
Would be George. So Red came to me one day and said, "Listen, I want you to get close to this guy, Jip DeCarlo. To George the Greek. He owed a lot of money to our friend Jip, and we want to see if we can recuperate this money somehow. Go find out what you can find out from this guy and get close to him." He was fooling around with stocks, and maybe you guys can do, a stock deal together or something. So, of course, I took up the task because Red asked me to do it. So what came out of that, Willie? What do you think?
I don't know. Like you found out.
The biggest penny stock promotion deal ever. So, two things are happening now. Jip DeCarlo passed away.
Mm-hmm.
George the Greek got away with it for the moment, but through me and through a stock deal,
Yep.
George was able to make more than enough money to where these guys got some money, and George was able to go on his merry way.
So George did pay some money. He just through the stock
He
deal.
didn't acknowledge that it was It
Right.
was through the stock deal.
Right.
And-
It wasn't actually George saying, "Okay, here's 90 grand." It was through the stock deal. So still today, That's never been settled, and like you said,
I
only
asked
George
George
know. I know.
I asked on the show. I
And he
asked
said,
George.
"You'll never
And
know."
you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna edit part of that right in right now to this.
Absolutely, we
Right
can
now.
do that. We get it. I mean, I think he'll take that to his grave. I'm sorry, but
he's taking it to the
Yeah.
grave. I So after Jip DiCarlo had served 18 months in jail, at Christmas time,
right.
Richard Nixon, what do you think he did?
Well, we talked about it in the last show, so he pardoned him.
He did. He pardoned Jip DiCarlo, and man, it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
I bet it was.
The reason that he pardoned DiCarlo is the doctors and Jip DiCarlo appealed to him because he said he was dying of cancer. So Richard Nixon pardoned him. But the way the story really goes, and this is kind of neat, Frank Sinatra paid $150,000 to Richard Nixon's campaign for election for president. And that was spearheaded through Spiro Agnew, who was the vice president at the time. So it was kind of like the FBI did a big investigation on it and found absolutely no wrongdoing at all. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
They found no wrongdoing in the pardon for Jip DiCarlo. So evidently, you know, the way it was presented was done 100% correct. And, you know, Jip DiCarlo's appeal to the president must have touched his heart in a kind way.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. In
Yeah.
a kind way.
Yeah, in a kind of way.
And he was pardoned. And,
Yeah, no.
you know, they looked at the transaction with Frank Sinatra and they deemed that was completely above board as well.
Some ain't right in that whole picture.